everyone. It's just gone 10, half of 10, but a couple of minutes late. Can we please take seats? Thank you. As this is the first cabinet meeting since the very sad departure of Our Majesty Queen Elizabeth, I will call for everyone to stand for a minute silence. Welcome to today's cabinet meeting. Since a long time since we last met, that was back in July. So we go to agenda item 1. Apologies for absence. Ian?
Apologies from Councillor Scott. Councillor Stock. Sorry, Councillor Scott is here. You're here. Sorry, Councillor Stock and Councillor Honeywood, who's at the JWIC consultation event today.
Chairman, I can also offer apologies from Councillor Mark Stevenson, and his deputy leader, Councillor Baker, is attending on his behalf today.
Thank you very much indeed, Ian. Agenda item 2 is minutes of the last meeting. Are you happy for me to sign them as a true records? Agenda item 3, declaration of interest. Has any member got any interest to declare at this stage? If not, in the item whenever it's heard. Don't see any hands gone up. Item 4, announcement by the leader. I am absolutely delighted to share with you, and I'm sure that you've already got wind of that. Tendring District Council has been awarded the gold level on the military covenant, which is an excellent recognition to how the council engages and values the servicemen, ex-servicemen and women who have served in or are serving in the armed forces. This is on all aspects of housing and employment and support. I think that's an excellent achievement to have been given recognition, and I know that Anastasia and Councillor Amos, Chris Amos, went to a very glitzy ceremony in London where Tendring District Council was named amongst the recipients of such a cabinet award, and I know that Essex County Council gave a briefing on a couple of days ago, and they too singled us out for the way in which we were given, and I know you had a great evening, Anastasia, and well done for the way in which HR has dealt, and also to Ian in particular, as the head of the organisation, to have coordinated this this award, and well done. I would also like to mention that on Monday I was in Harwich, where I introduced the first day of the 2 weeks of tendering for growth. We had the attendance of 25-30 businesses there across the district. We had a very charismatic presentation from hotelier and hospitality guru, Paul Milsons, and 2 other entrepreneurs which spoke about their background and how they dealt with COVID and how they've engaged with the workforce to maximise what they do. It was a truly excellent way to open the 2 weeks, and unlike previous years, this time we span it over 2 weeks period, and there's a series of events. Some of them have already taken place, which they will culminate with an awards evening on Friday. I don't know if anybody else has got anything to add. Councillor Newton. Mic on.
Sorry, thank you. I actually attended the skills fair yesterday, and it was really fantastic to see the number of people that had turned out. I think we had about 350 people that actually turned out, and it was actually a hands-on as opposed to any other kind of as we did before, but this was actually all about varying skills for varying jobs. And I managed to go round the hall and talk to everybody, and they were all completely happy with what was going on, and had some interesting conversations with some of the people, particularly with the police and with the fire service, quite enlightening conversations. And I think that it will be very, very successful, and I'm hoping that we will have some of our residents that will actually secure some places from that do. It was very good.
Excellent, thank you, Mary. And last time this event took place was in 2019, I believe, and there were just short of 200 jobs being created on the day, and I look forward to having an update on the success that this produced. I understand that a wall had to be demolished in the Princess Theatre, which one of the local builders firms built in a very hastily taken down, where youngsters took part into having a go at cement, mortar and cement, but I understand it was taken down before it set.
Just to say, the wall was very good, but we have now taken it down to stop the Princess Theatre being in 2 halves.
Okay, so we go to agenda item 6, matters referred to Cabinet by the Council. There are none on this occasion. Item 7, matter referred to Cabinet by Committee. There are none likewise on this occasion. And item 8, it's highlight priorities action towards the corporate plan themes. Now, in the absence of Councillor Stock, I will introduce this report, which really draws in one place all the various achievements that that the organisation is actually undertaken and delivered. On page 25, there's a very comprehensive list of what's been done so far, and the highlights on the priorities were specific areas in which the leader thought that we should concentrate and put more resources to deliver them. But if you go down the list here for the Jaywick and workplace, it's incredible. For those of you who have not been there, I do urge you to go and have a look. There's amazing steel structure there, which at one time was thought almost impossible to achieve, and that will be there for the benefit of generations to come, to promote economic growth and employment. The £40 million, 2 bids have gone in. Jokingly, I'm not sure which reiteration of this is. Probably the 3rd or the 4th time they've been submitted, but try again, and hopefully we'll get some good news this time. But it's a huge amount of effort from officers to put these bids together, and at some stage we really deserve some recognition for our case. Again, the car parks received safety awards. The tour events, the air show that we've delivered, and the new equipment in gyms that have been installed. Again, we successfully find a landlord for poor quality houses of multiple occupation, and the list goes on. So it really is a good snapshot where we are, but some of the highlights have now been extended because obviously with the limited resource that we have, we've been honest with ourselves, and again they're listed. There's a comprehensive list there which shows which one have been moved from Q2 to Q3 and Q3 to Q4. I'm happy to move that, and if I have a second, Councillor Bray.
Yeah,
Anyone will speak? Councillor Allen.
Yes, you know, it looks impressive. It is, probably is, Carlo, Chairman. I'd just like to mention, as a side really, on number one there, the 15 additional homes acquired in the housing revenue account. These were new homes gifted by builders. I mean, gifted is an innovative motive term because they're making millions, and gifted is, they're throwing us a few crumbs that we can benefit as well. But what's concerning me now is, especially in my own area of Frinton and Walton, is that the large sites there have had these planning permissions which they got before the new local plan, with an amount of social housing at 30%. Now they want it down to 20%. But on top of that, they want to get rid of, on the sites now, because we really pushed, you've got them in Manningtree, you've got them in Wheelie, all over these places, houses that really look nice. And the ones in Faultless Oaken, I think along the main road there, we all said, we don't want that, but they are going to be substantial and aspirational properties. But the developer on that particular site I'm talking about wants to take those away and put in 24 additional boxes, possible buy to rent type people, so that these estates that we want to look good, they just want them as a box standard London type council estate looking, but in our area. Now, I don't mind a council estate if all the houses were gifted to us, but we asked for 30% and they said no, but they want to build another 24. What they say, this low, was it affordable? Affordable to who? So I hope that because of the new plan, local plan that eventually coming in from 2012 and eventually coming 10 years later, that we adhere to that with regard to these big sites coming back and pushing on us that what they want, and it's pure greed. And so we as a council, and I say we because I am part of this council, Rowo, we want to see these sites looking different, not all the same. And it seems to happen in every area, but we fought hard for the one in Walton to be changed and left as its loan, and we should do this. And I hope the planning people will listen to this and really look into it and think twice about it. Thank you, Chairman.
Yeah, thank you, Terry. I've given you quite a lot of latitude there because straight off on from, but yeah, absolute point well made. I think before I bring Jeff in, Ian, did you want to?
No, it was just the kind of ensuring that we to the agenda.
Yeah. Jeff.
Thank you, Carl. I just really wanted to offer a little bit of comfort to Councillor Allen for some of the questions he asked. I'm fully aware of the site he's referring to, and actually we discussed it a little bit last night, so we know what we're talking about. I will be speaking to my officers later today because I think there's some clarification required, particularly with requests from some developers to lower their affordable housing level, something I'm not excited about. I want to keep it where it is. And as for the other point you made right at the end, I think those members here who've been on the planning committee will tell you we do all we can to keep as much variation in the properties that we pass. We really, really do. We don't want to see a row of everything that looks the same everywhere we go. I know our officers are very conscious of that, and certainly the planning committee are too. I just wanted to offer some reassurance of that. It's not got past us, we know.
Thank you. Ivan. Councillor Anderson.
Thank you. I've got a few questions. Do you want me to do them one at a time, or do you want me to just
do them all in one go? And then...
Right. Going back on what Councillor Allen's just mentioned on the 15 additional homes, which it says 13 are gifted. has there been any calculations done on the comparison between these developments if they'd have been gifted or if they'd have been done on the proper percentage amount of houses that the developer would have had to provide on social or affordable housing? Because it would be useful to see how many houses we would have gained if they weren't under these 13 gifted. Because I think councillors should be seeing those comparisons of how many more affordable and social housing we could have had rather than going down these deals with gifted. So that'd be useful if we could be given those figures eventually. On page 29, it says realigned new electric vehicles charging points installed in the district. Is there, I mean, there's no target there. There's not, that doesn't say how many or whatever. Is there any indication of what target we are looking at on installing the amount of electric charging points across the district? Because this doesn't tell us anything. It just says that we've realigned vehicle charging points installed in the district. And the next one is on page 35, where it says preparing a long list of potential disposable development sites for the portfolio holder shortlisting, and that says that's all been done and it's gone to cabinet. Report to members short list of potential development disposal sites, and it goes on to the next page, on to 36, and we all know this because we discussed this at one of the cabinets about this wave of extra green sites around our district, including, I mean, at the end of roads, just little bits of green space which were included in that. But it says on the other page, 69 sites reported to cabinet, all approved to be progressed. Now, I took it from you, Chairman, that at the last meeting that we would be consulted. All members in all wards and all councillors would be consulted before any of this full list was agreed, because I certainly in my group have been through that list and we're not happy with some of those sites. So I would hope we're going to hear those assurances back from you, and I'd hope that this is wrong here where it says that all approved to be progressed, because that's certainly not how I saw it when it was coming up. And finally, on page 38, it says that we've realigned the report on the Tender District Sport and Leisure Strategy. Now, when we were talking about closing sports centres, I thought this was supposed to be aligned with that. So where actually is this? Because I would have thought if we're realigning that, and we were told months and months ago that this was going to be in place, that should be red. It shouldn't be grey. It should be red. It's out of date. Hasn't been done, and it was promised to be done on the back of closing those sports centres in Harwich and Brightonsea. So I'd like some answers on that, and I'd like to see if that should be down there as red, because we've not actually met our target on that leisure strategy. Thank you.
Okay. On the first one, the 15 houses, I think that's outside the scope of this report. The contribution from builders and the affordable housing achieved is not part of the priorities, and I'm very happy to ask Gary to send round what the criteria is and the affordability. The policy in our plan is the affordable housing should be 30% of whatever development above 10 dwellings actions to be, but I'm sure that Gary will take that away for as an action. I'll take the page 35, the long list of sites. Now, it's probably a misunderstanding of the words. The decision taken in July was to progress the sites to go out to public consultation. Now, I've already received 3 representations from members. No decision has been made at all whether, to progress, it means there's progressing to the to consultation with public and to initiate the potential disposal. So it's just to enact what our constitution said, just to clarify that. But no decisions has been made on the future or the use of any sites at this present time. I can give you my reassurance on that. I'll go to Michael for the EV, or Michael, or is that Alex, the electric vehicle charges. Oh, yeah. Michael, do you want to take the electric vehicle charges?
Yeah, we have, with Lee's cooperation, tried to tie the county council down to some extent, because if you remember the last council meeting, and I'll be reporting this as part of my climate change report to the next full council, the council did ask me to contact the county council and find out what their plans were for street parking and street electric charging points within Tendring District, since they're the highway authority, and anything being done on the highway, any furniture that's going to be put there of any sort for charging is a county responsibility. Had a number of very successful email exchanges with Lee Scott, the county portfolio holder, who Cabinet asked me to contact. But I'm afraid to say that you can get very encouraging correspondence with the county council, and it results in no action taking place. We did get to the state where we finally managed to tie Lee Cooper and his colleagues down to a meeting. It was expected both would be accompanied by officers. At that meeting, Lee turned up, all in a great bit of a hurry, on his own, despite the fact this was a meeting organised by the county, in the sense that it was the county's MS Teams system that was being used, and they organised it. But all he wanted to do really was get through, say hello and go. And the final thing he said was, oh, I think this is important enough, I should set up a meeting at the county level and invite representatives from Tendring to attend so we can sort out the policy long term. Now, I don't know, I can't remember off the top of my head, but that must have been a fortnight or 3 weeks ago, I'm sure, and we've heard absolutely nothing since then. So I'm sorry, in terms of EV parking in the streets, I've got no report to give you. I've tried hard to get and tie down just a little bit the county council, but you get all sorts of platitudes. You get extremely nice, pleasant answers, but they're actually leading nowhere. Our own parking arrangements that we're responsible for car parking on council property, like our car parks, that's been progressed by Ian Taylor reasonably satisfactorily, with grants being obtained from the government now to go towards them. But progress is very slow, I would have to admit. But I'd love to be able to say, yes, we have an arrangement with the county now for what I've been pressing for. We're a holiday resort, and we ought to try and get car parking in the streets that approach all the seafronts around the district. So holiday makers in particular can come down, put their vehicle on charge, go on the beach and enjoy their day and come back with it charged. But I'm sorry to say that might be my point of view, but it's unsuccessfully been accepted by the county. They want to hold a meeting to talk about it themselves, but actually seem to be doing nothing. That might sound like a lot of excuses, but it happens to be the true position.
Do you want to come back on the point?
Just briefly, then I think what should be in here is what our aspirational target is, even for our own responsibilities. Forget about county. I'm talking about a document here, which is TDC's responsibility. So I'd like to see the number that we would, our wish list, our target or whatever, around our own car park, so we know how close or where we're getting to on achieving that target, not just an open thing to say, well, we're going to look at electric car charging. I don't think that's good enough.
That's a point well made, Evan, and I'm sure that Councillor Talbot will give some consideration and take it on board. Alex, do you want to pick up anything else on the EV and also on page 38, the leisure and sports strategy?
Yeah, so I mean, I was in the meeting with Michael and Councillor Scott from Essex, and yeah, you know, I'd like to see some action on roadside charging. Councillor Scott was more interested in seeing more sort of, you know, the grid serve place up at Braintree, that being the sort of thing that happens across the district, because Essex actually has got a very poor charging network. If you look it up, it's very poor indeed. And in terms of our own car parks, again, it's a difficult subject because, of course, the problem with EVs at the moment is that the ban that everyone talks about is not actually law. It doesn't exist. It's just something that's been said. So we don't exactly know whether that be 2030, 2035, what it will entail, and where we go from there. So the EU Parliament have passed, they were going to do 2035, but they've made it carbon neutral rather than like banning petrol and diesel engines, because there are companies developing synthetic fuels and there are means. So there's so many different things around this that, and the cost of putting in charging points, we've kind of looked at it, it's incredibly expensive, because if you go for the high powered ones, the sort of the 350 kilowatts, the cabling and everything else that you've got to put in is really, really, really expensive. So does the council commit to trying to put some of these chargers into its car parks? Is that the right thing to do, or should it be private companies coming in and setting up like petrol station style places? You know, one of my big suggestions is that town centres should have charging points within them, but of course we're not the highways authority, so we can't do that in the roads, but it would bring life back to a town centre, because of course if people are parking an electric car in a town centre and they've got to sit there for 30 minutes, suddenly the shops have got a boost. But equally so as a private business, if it gets a forecourt like GridServe and open up something like that, and they can have a, you know, an M&S and some other bits in there. So it's an all over the place subject, but I agree that we could do with a sort of a nailed down strategy of what we think that we should be doing as the district with car parks, and, you know, whether it's facilitating private companies to come in. But yeah, so I totally agree on that. But certainly, you know, with it being highways as well and the district, it's all over the place a little bit. But something needs to be done about it, because you can't have, you know, electric vehicles been the sort of been promoted, been the thing that you buy, and you know the sales are going up, and then we've got no facilities to charge them in the district, because it makes it incredibly difficult. And whatever you say about EVs, the ranges aren't massive, so you know you do need that charging facility, and people are going to look at where to go, whether they want to go there because it's got the facilities, and equally if you bother to buy one at all because there's no facility. You know, I looked at potentially buying an EV, and actually it's almost pointless, because living here it's difficult. I can only get a 7 kilowatt wall charger, and then there's nowhere to, I'd have to drive to Braintree to get a fast charger, so it's, you know, it didn't really work. So yeah, so that's that subject.
Long response.
Yeah.
But makes sense.
Yeah.
The sports and leisure strategy.
Yeah, I sort of, you know, it's a subject I like. But the sports strategy, so it's in the process of coming through. I think we're going for cabinet in December. Yeah, get the nod. With the sports strategy, we were working with Mark Stevenson. He was coming into it as well, and we kind of had the agreement that we'd delay it. It's been delayed for longer than I think we said we would, just to get it right and make sure that everything we're doing is, you know, worthwhile. I want to make sure it's a strategy that's actually got a point to it is worthwhile moving forwards, because, you know, one of the things we wanted to make sure was it was about people being active across the district, not just in a leisure centre, but using the things like the seafronts, using the other facilities we've got, cycling, swimming. You know, we've got swimming groups and people doing yoga on the beach. All these different things are activities that need to be incorporated into a strategy to make sure that we're not just missing out on people being able to do these things, because it's not just about somebody going to a gym and, you know, working. The amount of people that do that is tiny in comparison to the amount of people that go jogging on the seafronts in the morning, or cycling, all the other things that happen, or going out on fields, and, you know, and also the possibility of, you know, whether we could get funding for bigger projects, running tracks and other such things, you know, because maybe we could attract something where it could be a big project, you know, which would put us on the map, and we could have people coming from all over the country, things like that. So there's all sorts of different factors in it, but yeah, it should be going in December. And as I say, we did work with Councillor Stevenson, but I think the last time, probably May, I think, that we had a meeting with Councillor Stevenson. But yeah, so hopefully December should be the target for that.
And just to clarify, the involvement of Councillor Stevenson is in accordance with the Cabinet Scrutiny Protocol, to where scrutiny gets an opportunity to feed into a strategy before they're made. You okay with that, Ivan?
I'm just saying, to do it in the country, the 34 million cars, it's about 1.2 million a year if we're going to go to 2050. It's just, is it not?
Is it? Thank you. I'm sure it is. I'll buy shares in those. Andy, Councillor Baker, you're the next speaker.
Thank you, Chairman. I won't be as long. The 15 additional homes, and I appreciate we don't want to go off at a tangent, and I don't want to make too many comments because I sit on planning. But I don't want to see us accepting gifted houses too often, because that then negates the 30%. And I think developers are trying to get around it. I'll just make a comment on that. I thought it would be an interpretation of the wording with regard to the all approved to be progressed.
You have my assurance on that.
I'll just say that 3 members out of 48 making representations. I know that not everybody is affected, but I would have thought you may have got more. And I'll leave that there. Thank you, Chairman.
I totally agree with you. And that was the very reason that I brought the item to Cabinet, as opposed to have been a decision which I could have done under the existing arrangement in accordance with the council procedure rules. It was just to give it some focus and highlight the fact that we are considering this. And, I'll be flabbergasted if a fraction of the 69 sites will progress to anything. It would be quite good for groups to come forward to actually express a wish to take them over. But we've had 3 people contacting me personally, which I've passed on to the team. It might be the case some of the sites are not really suitable for housing, and really this is the reason that again I brought it to Cabinet and publicised as much as I possibly could to give it the profile they needed. But like I said, maybe this is a renewed plea for people to come forward. Councillor Scott. Ian.
If I just on that very item, just one point of clarification. The actual process is that in order to be able to put forward the properties, you have to start the initiation process. That's in the Constitution. So it's not progressing it doesn't mean to say that they're going to be sold, doesn't mean to say that they're not going to be sold. It just means that the initiation process has been started, and as we've done with any of the others, we did one last time round which was related to one Terry's aware of. So that's just the initiation process of any of our properties, which if we're looking at them, you need to do in order to commence the process of looking at it.
Which hopefully should trigger the consultation responses from people. Councillor Scott.
Yes, just following on from what Councillor Baker is saying about the 69 areas, I'd like to thank you, Chairman, because I know that some of the parish councils in my ward have made contact with you, and you've given a very good response back to the parish council. So thank you for that. And I think alarm bells were sounding amongst the rural areas at town parish councils, because they assume that their sacred green space in their village is going to go built on. So alarm bells were being rung, and I can understand the word in progress. I mean, that word progress sounds like it's going down the line to build on these green areas. So the word impact may need to be changed, because I know for a fact I'm going to get more people asking, oh, what's happening with the green space? Are they going to build a load of houses on it? So perhaps the wording might change. But thank you, Chairman, though, for what you said to my parish council in my area.
Thank you, Councillor Scott. Okay, moving on. We have the report. I've moved it, and the Councillor Brace seconded it. And all those in favour, please show. I think that's unanimous. Thank you very much. We go to agenda item. Where are we? Financial. Yeah, agenda item 9. The very less importance item about a financial performance report. Okay, then, members, the report in front of us today marks a significant departure from the usual financial report they would expect to come in front of you at this time of year. But as I'm sure you will notice, there's no appendices there. There's no real figures there to discuss. But the report, I hope, sets out the reasons why such a departure has been taken at this present time. As we discussed at the other evening's excellent cost of living on members briefing, we are facing a very, very challenging financial future. Every local authority up and down the country will be hopefully discussing the same having the same discussion as we are having and dealing with the same matters that we are dealing. In terms of our own position here at tendering, thanks to our very careful financial management, we are in a strong position to respond to these challenges in the immediate term. Because of this, we're able to take the time to react and make well-informed decisions, which is always at the very heart of our long-term approach in case of a rainy day. Well, the rainy day has arrived, it's here. And luckily, and because of what we put in place, we're able to weather the storm in the short term. Although the future looks difficult, we will have time to identify the longer-term answers in a financially sustainable way. So we'll bring an updated financial performance report to the November meeting of this cabinet, which will start to draw together the more detailed response to the significant funding gaps we are looking for 22-23 and 23-24. And I'm already working with officers to identify those. Sound like a train taken off there. That's gone. It's also worth highlighting that the approach that we're taking has been recently discussed with the external auditors. They've acknowledged the difficult position and they are quite happy for the approach that we are taking. As always, every cloud has got a silver lining. Interest rates have always been a double-edged sword, but it is worth highlighting that the recent Bank of England rise in interest rates will reflect in an increase on the investment returns available to us as a council, and help support the overall financial position. Although a figure has yet to be finalised, income from investment could increase by as much as £500,000, which will help, of course, balance the books. It is also good to highlight that positive elements that remain in the budget, such as the membership of the Essex Business Rates Pool and the Council Tax Sharing Agreement with Essex County Council. Both of these are expected to continue to make positive contribution, as they've done for several years now in the past, to our financial position. In terms of the corporate investment plan, this will remain a valuable tool as we move forward. But given the circumstances, I hope the members appreciate the delay in bringing this back to Cabinet. The report does, however, identify a number of more pressing matters that are proposed to be funded in the interim period, as you will see in the recommendations. It's also worth touching on the zero-based budgeting. The principles behind this approach will form part of our longer-term response. So it is certainly not a principle we're abandoning, but one that we need to do in a considered and well-informed way over the next year to 18 months, once we've secured a balanced position for 22-23 and 23-24. I've therefore asked officers to stress the need to all sections of the organisation to look again at their spending and hold back on this until we have a clearer way forward. Finally, and moving on from the all members briefing discussion, I will shortly be exploring options to engage with members, as we all need to be involved in shaping the budget to look ahead at 23-24, along with aiming to protect frontline services as far as possible. I've already asked Ian to set up an all members briefing where there'll just be one item on the agenda for discussion to highlight how the finance mechanism works in the council, what we're faced with, what we need to consider, and I will welcome as many members as possible. I think face-to-face engagement the other evening was a great success. It was a long time. It was the first time that all members met in a face-to-face environment since well before COVID. I think the last one was in January 2020 when we last were in the same room in a place called Wheelie, which some of you may remember or may not remember, but we will not go there. Again, as Ian pointed out the other evening, some difficult positions and difficult choices will need to be made, and I will want to have every member to engage in this process. So I'm sure that Ian will pick this up with group leaders and then a subsequent on members briefing to our full engagement with as many people as possible. I'm happy to take questions on the report, but as I already said, if members want to wait until the more detailed budget discussion in November, then I'll be happy to do so. Before I go to Ivan, Ian.
Just clarify a couple of things. In terms of the budget position, the key thing is that we are having to change the approach we have taken. And we're taking the approaches is because the pressures now, as you can see within the report, is 3 million within 22-23. Now, I know Richard, who's not well, and is actually sitting on the screen, if we have any questions for him, but we really didn't want him in the same room because I don't want it, and what he's got. But I think that the key thing is then, so he would say this much better than me, but the key thing is that for 22-23, that we can cover that, but it is not that we do still need to do the savings. So we're giving ourselves time, but members, and I say that collectively for all members, will have some difficult decisions to make because £3 million taken out of a small budget is difficult. Now, governments are saying that there's some fat in local government at the moment. And I'm just going to enter into this and say we don't have fat. Please do come and look, government, if you want. We don't have fat in our budget. But what we do need to do is make we'll make those difficult decisions on the basis that our funding, as that's been said, could be cut further. So we really do need to be looking at our budgets. Now, the national trade papers at the moment are predicting that the department which for DLUC, which is for local government, who's looking at the budgets and things like our grants. So there's going to be additional pressures. So I think it would be really helpful to have an all-member briefing where we can sit in the environment where we can discuss the factual position. I'm not going to get into the politics of what you as members will then need to make difficult decisions about, but the factual position about saying this is where we're at and this is some of the decisions. We had a long meeting with our external auditors, explained through the position, which was really valuable. And actually, I do not even almost want to say this because I don't want to give the comfort level, but they said we're in a better position than some. We've read that in the press and in a lot. Our debt level, excuse me, is very low. And so we don't have, it's not that issue. What is our issue is our ongoing revenue and ensuring that we have a balanced budget each year. And so that's going to be part of our challenge. So I'm not seeing anything. Richard's sort of waving frantically that I've said wrong there. So he's nodding. That's okay. So that's the latest position. That's the approach we're taking. But if you ask me, it is concerning. There's no doubt about it. It is concerning.
Before I go to Ivan, one thing that I meant to make clear is that the scrutiny process will very much carry on and will be very much part of the work programme of the Resources and Service and Overview Scrutiny Committee. But this member engagement will be something over and above that before the Scrutiny Committee gets stuck in. Ivan.
Thank you, Carlo, and all credit to you actually, because you are trying to defend the indefensible by trying to find a silver lining out of the mess we're actually in at the moment within this country. I mean, and you're talking about interest rates. It might be a silver lining for this council, but it's certainly not a silver lining for all of those people out there who are facing these massive increases in their mortgages as if they can get one. So it's certainly not a silver lining out there. And why we're here, and you know it, and you've admitted it on a number of occasions. We're in this situation, this financial situation, as a result of the government.
Absolutely.
Because they actually were supposed to bring in a fair funding formula.
Mm.
And while we haven't had the fair funding formula, we've had reductions in our revenue grant. Over and over again. I think there's about £7 or £8 million probably taken off, probably even more than that over the time. And what we get into is a very costly exercise where we're using officers' time and money to keep going for these contests of bidding for every single penny we can get because we haven't got the right amount of money coming from the government. So it is a situation we're in, and it's caused by this government. The local governments have been put in this position, and they need to take the responsibility for that. We had also the business rate retention was supposed to come, still haven't had that. So I can see where we are, and I can see why you're trying to defend that. I want to ask a question because a lot of councillors have been dragged into this, and I know that Thurrock Council has now been given a public works loan to actually get themselves out of that mess. And they talk about other councils have already borrowed them money. Has this council borrowed any money, and are we waiting for any payback from Thurrock Council?
Before I go to Ian, at the members' briefing the other night, those of us who were there were given the assurance that Ian is receiving in writing an undertaking that the money that there's just to give some background, is a well-known practice that authorities lend each other money on a regular basis to complement whatever extra income they can make. So this is not a practice that suddenly happened overnight. We have lent Thurrock £3 million or 6 million. 3 or 6, Richard?
6 million.
£6 million, and that money is safe and will be paid back to us. Ian actually did say, and I will go to Ian in a minute, that the reassurance that we have got is quite happy to circulate to all members, and the assurance is that the money is safe. Ian, do you want to comment further on that?
Apologies. Yes. So as you know, and I know this is just to members, so the members' bulletins, so I'll say it publicly because obviously it's much wider. So yes, we as many authorities lent money to Thurrock. Excuse me. And in fact the chief executive of SIPFA, which is the Institute for Public Finance, put out a message which I circulated to all members, which said that any funding which was lent by local government to local governments is safe, and actually it is good policy because we're not putting it in risky organisations. Obviously, the issues around Thurrock has then made people fearful. So we this week had a communication which guaranteed the funding which we have got, which was over the next quarter. It comes to fruition over the course of the next 5 months. So it actually is only short term. There's a 3 million, a 2 million, a 1 million from memory, which is in three loans, yeah. And that which is a total of 6 million over the 5 months. And we've had a communication from Thurrock and obviously Essex, who are working with them on the finance by the direction of government, that we will be receiving our funding back. So that's not a risk. I think the wider conversation is about the need for public sector to be borrowing from each other in order to fund themselves.
Thanks for that response. And that's the point I've made before about members' briefing. Some of these discussions and information should be in the public domain, and I think this is a prime example that we should be open and transparent as a council, and people should know our involvement in some of these things. That'd be useful to. I can't remember that decision actually coming here when we first made that loan. I don't know. Do we owe any other loan? Are we owed any other loans to anyone else?
So in terms of treasury management, the treasury management is
by council once a year.
What the treasury management policy is approved by council, and then it is obviously delegated to officers. And on a daily basis, that we're moving money around to maximise it. We have cash flow in terms of our funding. So members, the decisions which we make on a daily basis of moving money around into the different, but it's set by the criteria, which is set by council. So councillors don't do the operational of actually we're going to put 10,000 here or whatever. What you do is you set the policy. If there's a variation on the policy, we bring that back to members, and then it's via Richard's team to do the operational side of the investments.
Arden?
On the issue about, because that's the first time I've seen this in here, we're using the constitution here saying that it's all members' responsibility to come in to sort these finances out. And that does seem strange. We're heading the next few months into a local election, and all of a sudden the opposition are being called on, and all members to actually be involved in decision making when we've actually put decisions forward at budget meetings, and they've been actually buried into corporate investment boards and not seen the light of day, and they've been voted against. And I'll just give you one example. I mentioned it earlier. Our leisure centres, when we asked for the support of the administration, and they just turned us down flat and said, no, we're not going to keep those open. We're making a decision. So at the end of the day, I think decision making is down to the cabinet. They've been making decisions for near on the last 4 years. The financial situation is their responsibility, collective responsibility. I'll be more than happy to actually get involved in decision making, and so will my group, if and when next May we take over control and we actually are on a cabinet where we're making decision and we're taking the responsibility. But I don't see why we should now start taking up the responsibility at the end of the day when we're just that close to an election. Everyone all of a sudden wants to listen to us and ask for our opinions and our support. That's my view, and that's probably my group's view as well, Chair.
Ian, you want to come in?
Can I just clarify one point you made there, Councillor Henderson? It is all members, because you at council make the decision. It's not made by cabinet. So the budget, the council's budget is a council decision. You're talking about obviously the individual decisions out, and I quite respect what you're saying there, but I did need to clarify that it's the all council decision making there. And if I may say this, and I'll say this as your returning officer and chief executive, perhaps in terms of that, we don't know what the outcome in May is. We don't know who will come to power in May. That will be for the electorate to decide. But one of the things is whoever comes to power will have difficult decisions to make. So I think that's making sure that you're well aware of the position. So whoever comes to power is informed that they have got some difficult decisions if they do take power or if they remain in power. So whichever the case may be. So that's why I inform you. Thank you very much in terms of giving the opportunity to say what was in the all-member briefing today. That is important. I do want to reassure people and keep reassuring people that we invest prudently, and that prudent investment has meant that we have not got ourselves in the position of perhaps some other councils we've heard about.
And just to clarify, I mean, we are in a situation that's not normal. We've never, ever, ever seen any of the likes of this situation before, and the offer for members to engage, to understand what the process is. I was quite clear. I didn't talk about decision making. I talked about engaging and understanding what the financial position is. We understand it because we work with it every day of the week, but there are some members which might not be as familiar as others. So this is an opportunity for people to come along if they like to or not. There's no politics in that at all. But it's just like, I'm trying to deal with a situation that is completely abnormal. None of us have been in there. None of us have had to face these challenges that in all my years in public service, I've never, ever, ever experienced. So it's, I think those of you that know me, it is a genuine offer. There's no politics beyond that. And I'll welcome as many people as possible wanting to come. I got Councillor Baker and then Councillor Scott.
Thank you, Chairman. I was just scribbling down some notes because I've got a public meeting in a couple of weeks, so I need to be able to say the right thing. Can I say thank you, Ian, for making that public, because I'm sure that will be a question that comes up. It was mentioned on social media. It's outrageous that we lend money to other councils, especially those that aren't as financially adept as we are. I think I'll say that. Can I just move to table 2 with regard to the amounts of money?
What
please,
page?
if I may, page 46, Chair. The recycling boxes and bins, £50,000 is not a great amount of money in the scheme of things. But I'm just wondering, do we actually ask why people keep coming forward to get bins? Is it because there's damage? Because having seen the way that some are treated by some of our contractors, it would appear that they're not as careful as they could be. If they were more careful, then maybe people wouldn't have to replace them. So maybe that's something the portfolio holder can take up in due course if he wishes to. And then moving on to the Tendering Community Fund, the extension of the scheme, the 100,000, I'm glad to see that, because there will be local organisations coming forward for some help, I'm sure. Will it be under the same criteria to be allocated as it is at the moment? I'm sure I'll get asked that by members of the public. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, on bins, I will go to Councillor Talbot. We had a very in-depth discussion not so long ago on this particular item. But on the community funds, the criteria will be reflecting the current situation. Again, I'll go to Councillor Matt Williams, whose portfolio is. Michael, do you want to pick up the bins?
It's a jolly good point, and I totally agree with what Andy's saying there about the way in which our contractors, sometimes their men just sling the bins. And for that reason, the decision to begin to impose charges for them is not to penalise those people, because I've said to the officers, any system that's going to charge for the bin must make allowance for the fact that if somebody brings a broken bin in, they can exchange it at no cost. So although we would be charging for bins, we're charging with the intention of stopping that nice long row of bins in somebody's garage that contain half a dozen different types of tools. And they've been getting them all for nothing. All they had to do was go along and ask for it. So as you know, Terry, we all know what goes on. We're trying to stop the abuse. We were happy beforehand, but now we can no longer afford to do it. So people who want to buy a second bin can buy a second and a third and a fourth if they want to, but not our expense. But we will, as you said, Andy, allow anybody whose bin has been broken because of the rough treatment it's received from the contractor. He or she can change their bin for nothing. Thank you.
Before I go to Linda, Ian, do you want to have a quick introduction on the new money for the community fund?
Just on the process side of it, in terms of that. So the committee which Linda has been operating has been successful in the approach, cross-party in terms of who's been on it. So the intention is to leave the existing process in place, rather than reinvent the wheel, so to speak. However, the scope for that money to be given out, of course, because this is around cost of living, needs to be broadened compared to what the tendering community fund existing scope is. So what will happen is that the first meeting of the tendering community fund group will actually just agree that revised scope, will draft something and revised scope, which will do exactly as you sort of just talked about, is about that extension and responding for groups being able to apply in order to respond for the cost of living work. So that's hence the wording, with the wording in the total. And if I may, just to be cheeky and just take the moment while I've got it, is also this whole table has been about the kind of the continuation of, or completion of, some of that works and responses. So that's why that's been put in there, but it's not part of the.
Linda.
Try and follow that. Thank you, Chairman. But thank you, Ian, for all of that as well. It's been very successful, I believe, in the approach that we took to assess who would need what and the amount of money that has worked out. A lot of areas have actually benefited by what we've been doing here. Also, I'm very pleased to note that it is continuing. I'm sure that is really going to be beneficial, especially in view of what we're all talking about at this present time. Hope that satisfies you, Andy.
Andy, yeah.
I think it's a great thing. I don't think I'd ever disagree with us doing this. But I've searched and I haven't found it, unless I'm not looking in the right place. Is there any publication of what and where the money has gone for transparency purposes? I haven't seen that. I mean, it may be coming in, or it may be I can't find it on our website. But I think for members of the public, it would be nice to be able to see, you know, there's this £356,000.
Yeah.
Where has it been allocated? It doesn't necessarily need to identify the group, but it'd be nice to see what it's been allocated for. Thank you.
That's a very good point, which I'm sure that I've not seen a decision be published yet, but I'll go to Anastasia. Hey, John. Yeah, you're on.
It's on. Oh, brilliant. That's great. Thank you. Councillor Baker, we're just in the process of agreeing the actual final contracts with the individual organisations. So once we've actually got all those contract replies back in, then there will be a published decision. So all the information will be available. And the next meeting of the group is on the 19th of October for information. Thank you.
Terry, do you want to come in on the final point before I go to Gary?
Yes, I would support. I mean, I think that the portfolio holder and the officer and their team have done a marvellous job with this. And I sat through that and listened to all the clubs that was brought forward and put their schemes. Really, there was a lot of scrutiny on them. I mean, even in the last times when the ones put forward were then scrutinised again. And all I can say, in my area, one club got the grant, and it's really helped them now. They can push on and put the club into a place where they can grow. If I can use your Tory, there is going to be growth there. And also it gives that club more confidence to push their own, what they're doing. And the membership went up, people are using the place. So all I can say is an excellent thing for the clubs. And it's probably what we spoke about ages ago, is help the local people to help their local people.
Absolutely.
And that's what we should be doing. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Terry, for your comments.
May not be on my finance questions, but he was before me.
Membership will be waiting for you outside the door. Gary, Councillor Scott.
Thank you, Chairman. Eventually I got there. Lending money to other councils, it does make sense. I mean, in the future, we may have a situation where we might need assistance. And so having an olive branch out to other councils lending the money, then I have no problem with that. I think it's a sensible approach that other councils help each other, because in the future, we may need assistance from other local authorities. So I welcome that. In terms of recommend the Cabinet, item A, it says maximise member engagement. Over the 20 years I've been a district councillor, I sat on Manpower Committee, Corporate Management Committee and our Resources and Services Committee. And I've always known that members of our council have sent in information or ideas to the said committees. Whether the Cabinet takes any notice of what those scrutiny committees or those three committees take on board is neither here or there. But what I do know is Councillor Stevenson's committee and me as Vice Chair of the Resources and Services Committee, we do actually work together collectively on that committee and work with other councillors, whether it's Councillor Griffiths from the Conservative group, who comes out with some really interesting comments, which I welcome. I often wonder, is he in the Conservative group or not in the Conservative group? And comments from other councillors. So it's really, really encouraging that we have done that. So I recommend, though, Chairman, that if we want to engage with members, and in this situation where we've got like financial problems coming down the line now hitting us, I think I would ask whether you could ask Councillor Stevenson to put a plea out by his chairmanship to ask council, rather than coming from the Cabinet, asking the chairman of the Resources and Services Committee to send an email to all councillors saying, we're going to do this in January, late December, early January. Are there any ideas and suggestions from councillors? Coming from the administration may put people off. If it's from Councillor Stevenson and from that Resources and Services Committee, I think it might have a better impact if you want to maximise other councillors from other groups. So perhaps go that direction. In terms of new builds, recycling boxes, I totally oppose the idea of charging people for boxes. It's in the future. I know we're there to encourage people to recycle, and if you can have people saying, "Oh, it's not, I'm not breaking the boxes, the contractors are breaking the boxes," but then you expect me to buy a box to well, no, I'm saying is if there are some families that have got big families that want additional boxes. And to be fair, I have been around other people's houses where people have got 5 red boxes and 4 green boxes, and they've got everything but recycling in them, from tools to toys and God knows what else. And they had the cheek to ask me, can I have some more boxes? And I said, no, you're not having any more, because you're supposed to be using them for that purpose, not to put your rubbish in, or their rubbish in, not the rubbish is supposed to be disposed. The other thing I want to say is I think there should be better links from the planning section to the environmental services, because there's a lot of new builds in our district where I visit new residents and move into new builds, and they get their wheelie bin delivered but not their boxes delivered, or they get their boxes delivered and no wheelie bin and maybe with no lids. So you need to perhaps link that better. So I've said to Mr. Barrett, perhaps we should encourage the planning department and the environment services to link together when people move in, and then biometrics is a trigger. So, but at the moment, Councillor Wiggins and I are continuously giving out boxes to people in our rural areas of the big developments in Elmstead and places. So I think that needs to be improved, because a lot of people out there are not recycling and just put it in the black bags because they're not getting their boxes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Gary, on that. As I made it quite clear, the engagement with members is to making sure that everybody understands the process and what's involved into the financial decision making, and how to deal with the situation that we have, as I said, unprecedented, that none of us have experienced in the past. And that the scrutiny process is absolutely vitally important that it continues and doesn't get hampered with this engagement session that I would like to kind of put in place. And, we have got to discuss this. Unless you discuss it, it goes under the radar. And, that's not, I'd like members to fully understand the implication of this. And your members briefing could be conducted with officers in the room, with some, we've not discussed what the format's going to be, but there'll be some options there. Maybe there'll be some models, there'll be an opportunity for members who are not familiar with the process to familiarise themselves more. So that's really what I'm doing. So, but the scrutiny process that Councillor Stevenson and yourself as his vice chair conduct will be completely, detached from the awareness session that I'm talking about. The bins, I've not verified it, but I've had stories that people have got nicely stacked up in their garages with labels on each bin on them, and this is what we're trying to stop. If people want to do that, then they can buy them, or they can go to B&Q and buy them for probably a little bit more than what we charge them ourselves. So without opening an argument on how much to charge for red boxes on that, because we're talking about approving the recommendations that on page 42, which relate to the financial performance report. Before I go to Jane, Lisa, did you want to come in?
Can I just make it absolutely clear that a decision has not been made to charge for the boxes at this stage? The report is quite clear that options are being considered. I think today's debate has shown there are various options. One of them would be looking at charging for boxes, but I just wanted to make it very clear for the public record that at the moment, no decision has been made with regards to charging for boxes. The report says the portfolio holder is working with his officers looking at a number of options. So I just thought it would be prudent to make that statement.
Thank you, Lisa, for that clarification, which, is now on public record and that no decision has been made. Councillor Chapman, Jane.
I think Lisa's probably just said what I was going to say. Whoever thought we could have such a discussion on rubbish bins and things? I've got a really good example on bins, and I would back that charges are made for these bins. I run a charity car boot 4 or 5 times a year, and we had a stall holder who turned up and had 40 recycling bins with all his, he was a market stall basically. And when I went over and said, where'd you get all them from? He says, oh, I'll just go in and ask for another one. So probably the first time ever I put my tendering ID badge on, and he went, oh my God. And he actually threw 6 of them back at me and said, oh, well, I'm not using these. So, well, no, I will take them back to the office because I don't want them all. It's but I would certainly back things like that. If they're broken, there's genuine reasons to replace. If they get blown away, which happens, okay, you can replace again. This man doesn't know that I know his address also, so he won't be getting any more. So, but I would certainly back the buying of bins.
Terry.
No, it's marvellous. I mean, we have got a financial report talking about millions of pounds. You mind reading? And we're talking about, 3 quid or 4 quid for a bin. Anyway, but it's always the way with councillors. Now, what I'll just say is that it's been brought up about, if there's another administration, they would have to. Well, it's not new to this council. It happened in '99, and it probably happened before that. You have to, if you want to take over this council, or when I say take the administration, then you've got to accept what's there and you've got to put it right. It can happen and it did happen. And everyone has to work together to do that. And so hopefully that will happen. And you get on. I won't go into the little minutiae of asking you questions about this. The other few things about the community fund bins and all that, they're just what I call bread and butter stuff for us. It's this financial thing that we've got to keep an eye on. And it's about time you dug out from a cupboard somewhere that big bucket that you put everything in. And if councillors want something else, take something out. Because the bucket is full. I'm serious about this. But if you want to put something in, you've got to take something away. And that's the only way you're going to manage it. It's very simple, very sort of nursery type analogy, but that is it. And we've got a set amount of money and we can only do for that. Councillors want it, take something out, save money, and then you can have that.
Terry, thank you for that. And I will draw people's attention on page 45, where he actually tells you in black and white what the problem is, what the challenging situation is, the shortfall that we're going to face in 22-23 and 23-24. It's stark reality, and this is estimates. It could be even worse. We haven't really settled the pay deal yet, and that will have an implication on those figures big time. So those of you who have known me for a while, I agree with Ivan. This problem has been caused by various things, but I've got to deal with what I have in front of me, and I try to do my best to address that with the excellent team of officers that we're fortunate to have. But that gives you an idea of what the challenge is in front of us. 1.722 million pound 23-24, and just under £1 million for next year. And this is just like on one item only, on employees' cost, and then the list goes down. You're looking at about 2.53 million pound shortfall, and that's stark reality. That's why I've actually initiated the conversation today, and we've had a very good debate on it. But as Terry says, let's worry about the 2.5 million, not the 50p for a replacement box of I just want to talk about the recommendation that where we are proposing on C to allocate £859,200. The explanations are on page 46. And, it's one of the things that we have discussed with officers, those key projects that we've embarked on. And the very first is the Starling site, where we found unwanted material underneath the ground, that needs to be taken out. We have made the decision to invest more and complete the project, even though people will question, why are you spending this much money at this present time of the time? Because, again, this is a point I've always made. This is community leadership at its very best. It's addressing, the state in which the Starling site remained for years and years and years. And I'm sure that by doing the work that we've done, it will raise the profile of the area and it will encourage people to invest. Again, in my opening speech at the Tendering for Growth on Monday, 10 businesses in Harwich were given £20,000 each to redecorate and to address the appearance in which they were. And I'm sure that they will see the benefits from that, And the reason that we launched the thing in Harwich was because that's where we've given it the highest amount of profile, and it's also been identified as an area that would benefit of the levelling up investment that Essex County Council has put in place. So, colleagues, I would love to move the recommendation, page 42. Do I have a second for that? Alex, seconding. All those in favour? Oh, Ian, do you want to come in before? All those in favour, please show. Yeah, thank you.
Can I just say thank you very much indeed to Richard Barrett, who unfortunately is sitting there on the screen coughing away, so don't want it. Because this is a different approach, this has brought it, but actually it's stimulated exactly the conversation which we were hoping to stimulate around in a much wider basis, whether it be some of the smaller stuff, whether it be the bigger things, because quite often the quarter one, dare I say it, Richard, apologies, can be a bit dry and can be a bit sort of like formulaic in terms of the finances. This has really stimulated a debate, and it has gone on into other areas, which I think is exactly the sorts of things we were saying at the beginning about how in terms of finance we need to get into. So thank you, members, and thank you for Richard for stimulating it in that way.
And luckily, Richard is there listening to that, and he's not going red in the face. Or is that just a cold?
Yes, and just to say is in response to Councillor Baker, who said he's going to do something, we will put something out in public around the return to the loans as well. So you've got a council statement, which will be some kind of within some kind of
press release at the end of the meeting today.
Yeah, we'll add that in there.
There's one I made earlier. Okay, thank you for a very good discussion on that. And the next item, agenda item 10, it's A3, the update on career track and apprenticeship provision. Now, this is something that I'm never tired to talk about. Career track has been going on since 1983. In February, we are planning a celebration, 40-year celebration of this service, which has produced dozens and dozens and dozens of officers, which are still, employed and embedded in our organisation. They've been here since the offset, and I will not embarrass a certain officer sitting around the table now, but it would be remiss of me not to mention him. Gary is a real kind of testimony of how successful the programme has been. And I know that Matt is hiding himself in the control room down there. He's another, excellent example of what the programme has delivered. And I could go on. There's so many people peppered around the organisation and that shows its success. That's how you measure success of career tracks, is to grow your own. There is a culture that we've always had in this authority, and to grow your own, you ensure that you buy the loyalty of the employees, the supervisor, the care and support they offer is absolutely second to none, and that again is embedded in the organisation. There's never been a statutory requirement to perform according to regulations, and up until 2017, the only way that the service used to report was to Martin Knappett and me as the portfolio holder. And to really was just an update on the progresses and the successes of it all. There were also some monitoring reports which have been successful to Ofsted before the regulatory system was introduced. And but in November 2021, we received an inspection from Ofsted where a report was published in December to say that there was some areas where we had to do a bit more work to be compliant with the regulation. So it must be stressed that these requirements regulation came in weeks before the inspection took place. So therefore, I just really wanted to make sure that, that regime was introduced shortly before the inspection took place. And before they arrived, of course, we were still dealing with COVID. Very surreal way of delivering a service that is historically been face-to-face, supporting young people in their apprenticeship program and their work placement. It was very, very challenging. And again, the team directed all their efforts and time to make sure that our young people were still supported in as much as possible in the same way as they would have done if COVID hadn't happened. So they did find new ways to deliver the service and guide all of these apprentices to achieve the end results, gain the qualifications, and concentrate on the next wave coming in. The inspection lasted 3 days. A report was published on Christmas Eve of last year. The areas of intervention were identified, and really it's in a group. As a result of that, a group was set up, which included Ian as chief executive, me as the relevant portfolio holder, Anastasia as the assistant director for HR, Karen Townsend as the from our governance and legal section, and the internal auditor manager, and Debian, of course, was charged with putting together all the work required. And Carol Magnus as the relevant manager of in charge of HR. Between the two of them, they did an absolute stunning job of addressing all the requirement from Ofsted. We've not had the follow-up visits, and I'm dying for them to come in. Now, 5 meetings took place during the summer up until now, and the one misconception I've got to say, as a member, I can't criticise Ofsted because it's my right. I'm an elected member like all of you are. Officers have got to be more careful with their comments, but I can't. I've got the freedom of speech, and my members, my residents are giving me that freedom, like they've done to everyone in this room. And it was very harsh for someone to come in and criticise an organisation which has produced an excellent service, delivered dozens and dozens of very successful young people which have changed their lives. And, to come in and not even taking into consideration what the real, we're just reeling from COVID. And, these guys were still struggling to grapple with that. So I'm absolutely delighted that and I welcomed the opportunity that was given to us, because I'm a firm believer not to rest on your laurels and to you're performing in every area of whatever you happen to be. And a really excellent program of improvement was put in place. As a result of that, a governing body was set up, mainly made up by the people I've just railed off. And we're now looking to introduce some external individuals with HR background and education background, which will be invited as governors on the governing board. We got the first steering governing board meeting this afternoon, I believe, and we'll be talking about the finances of it all. But I'm a firm believer again, of not putting a financial value of what you've improved some of these young people's lives into giving them opportunity to go further in their career. So I'm absolutely delighted to present the report to you, members and colleagues, and for you to note the recommendation on page 54, and I will be delighted to any comments anybody else got to make. Linda second again. Yeah. Terry first and then Andy.
Just, I feel your pain. I mean, not as a Conservative, I hope you in agony. But
Dodger membership is waiting for you in the office.
It should be at the moment. But no, being a school governor, and I've been a school governor for probably 24 years over 2 schools. Ofsted. I mean, these people come in, and the majority of them got all their knowledge from PowerPoints, and they come in and then they say these things to train teachers, and even us, we've been doing this for many, many years. I remember doing the first, when we was doing it for our staff, we got that little accolade. So, I don't know, they come in and that's just the nature of them. We've got to follow the rules like everything. But no, I just think that they should be a bit more reality, a bit more like ordinary people, and see it from another angle. That's all, Chairman.
Thank you, Terry. Andy and then Jane.
Thank you, Chairman. I think it's fantastic. On the first page, over 10 years, 500 people have benefited from Career Track with an 84% success rate. Where else? Is there anywhere else? And for an organisation that come in and say, actually, you're not doing very well, it's given people the chances that they may not have had. Personally, I've had that chance. I wouldn't be sat here in front of you if I hadn't had that chance. So I'm fully supportive of this, and I would disregard anything that Ofsted say with regard to our Career Track.
Thank you, Andy. Gary.
Yeah, I've praised up Career Track as long as I've been a district councillor, and when I sat on committee, and it was quite interesting when Career Track, the officers talked about it, and Gary has been here as long as I've been district councillor, and he came to my ward and did something, and Gary's developed over the years as long as I've been a district councillor. So I'm very, very pleased that Career Track has been right at the top. I'm very, very pleased, and I'm so proud that our council is managed to get people out there to have a step in our local authority and thrived. And and have some lovely officers that have worked hard for our council. So yeah, congratulations.
Thank you, Gary. Jane.
Oh, I'm going to follow everything they've said without repeating it all. And, you know, after the last couple of years of chairing HR as well and getting the reports at each meeting, for Ofsted to have come in with this report, you know, I'm not involved like the officers are and the staff, but I was absolutely gutted. I hate to think what they were feeling or thinking. And I have to agree, I think Ofsted need to come into the real world, and I can't praise the staff enough, with particularly, as we said, you know, 500 career track apprentices. Who else has done that? I'd like somebody to name someone, and, you know, put my hands up. So yeah, all credit to them and all credit for the report. So.
And we continue to do so. I know we provide apprenticeship for various local authorities like Kent County Council, Colchester, Braintree, and Uttersford, I believe, in the Malden, yeah. And I'm going to do something totally against protocol. Debbie Ann, would you like to comment on the? I'm going to embarrass you, because the enthusiasm that you put into addressing this after you picked yourself up off the floor with Carol, you show the determination of not just addressing what Ofsted's concerns were, but also to how to improve the actual service you provide. Would you like to have a couple of minutes of your time? Go on then.
Thank you. It was a very difficult inspection for us, as you know, and I'm just so proud of all the staff and how we've worked over the last, it's 11 months since our inspection, and so much has happened in that time. I certainly wouldn't be able to do it without the support of my superiors, my managers, and my team, who are all amazing. So we've all worked really, really hard over the last 11 months and through COVID. But I've been here for 24 years. And I've seen hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of young people come through, and I absolutely love my job. That's the reason I do it. Gary is one of many. I know poor Gary gets picked on all the time.
It's sitting back, isn't it?
Many people that we work with in the local authority who have, you know, made so much progress in not just in their careers but in their personal lives as well. We spend just as much time supporting them in their personal lives with their mental well-being and their health as we do delivering the apprenticeships, and that's so important, because if you're bringing things in from home, it's going to have an impact on your day-to-day role in the workplace. So I feel very privileged to be able to do the job I do and to make a difference to so many young people. So wouldn't be able to do that if I wasn't working here in the local authority. So it is a one-off. Essex County Council have got one, but they don't provide the flexible, unique, personal, you know, service that we do for our apprentices and our employers. So thank you all for your support.
Thank you. Ian, did you want to come in?
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to put our career track in a wider context, because if you look at many councils, they sit in the middle of many other areas around them, jobs they can offer there. We are effectively, and I know not literally, but we're effectively a peninsula. And actually, so the context of the importance of our career track is multiplied compared to many other places need, because for a lot of our young people, they don't go on to higher education. There isn't the aspiration. So we are creating the opportunity, the aspiration, in order for them to get qualifications and to springboard into other careers. You know, we see also leaving the council and going on to high positions in other organisations as well. And we've given our young people that springboard to go on to, which they would not have had, and they quite likely would not have gone outside the district to develop. So therefore, the context of our career track not only is how successful it's been, but actually how much more important it is to the context of tendering than to many others there. And you only need to look at the statistics to see that the sort of help that's giving. And in those sorts of numbers, when we look at the number of young people who don't go on to the education, the importance of it.
Thank you, Ian. I think that's been proposed and seconded. All those in favour to approve the report. Thank you very much. The next item, it's should have been presented by Councillor Honeywood, but is in JWIC carrying out a consultation exercise with Damon, our corporate director. So therefore, I will introduce this this item, which is quite important in the way that of what it seeks to do. This was a pilot that was launched sometime back in partnership with Essex County Council, and it was remiss of me to not have mentioned and singled out the our community partnership section, how they pull money in from various sources. Linda and Anastasia here, they got a huge involvement into our health and well-being of our district, and invariably they're showered with money coming in left, right, and centre. And the money that funded this pilot came from the North Essex Health and Wellbeing Alliance, which gave the opportunity to trial this 12 weeks rehabilitation program, if you like, from people coming out of hospital, which not only gave them a good base for them to get back on their feet, but also to free up hospital beds, utilise empty property, and where we still pay council tax, and create a revenue stream for ourselves. And I know that other Essex authorities have looked at this, and they want to very much take it on board. But what we're asking Cabinet today to approve is to continue the scheme and extend it to include other areas of our district to be used for those purposes. So I'm happy to move to page 81.
Can I just clarify one thing? Actually, it's been by Tim's team, the initiative, that one as well, in terms of the.
So Anastasia paid for it and Tim's delivered it. Yeah. I will go to Tim in a minute because obviously Paul will have presented, but I'm happy to move that. Jeff is second again. Tim, anything else you'd like to add to that I've missed out?
Thank you, Carl. Yeah, I suppose to add that these are flats that otherwise would potentially be vacant, so difficult properties to let, sort of void properties. So actually letting them to or allowing Essex County Council to use them is bringing that income stream into the housing revenue account. I suppose just to clarify, the pilot that ran for 12 months prior to now was funded by the North Essex Health and Wellbeing Alliance, but now it's being funded by Essex County Council directly. So that's the arrangement we've got going forward. So I think that's all I want to.
The pilot as well. So, and now the negotiation ongoing with Essex County Council to see what their contribution is going to be. Terry, and then Arvin.
This is good because the whole idea is to get these people that can be out of hospital into places. But what makes, this scene, in my area, you talk about you want to do it in other areas. We had a retirement home, not retirement home, but old people's home or elderly.
Sheltered housing.
Yeah, sheltered. And like clear 2 walls into this facility. There was a little bit upset with local people. There was a small fire there and that. And then the county council come in, instead of looking at that and say, they must have been thinking about this when this happened a few months ago. They've completely flattened aside quickly without any discussion with us as a town council, and we're only around the corner. Any discussions at all, I certainly didn't hear anything here or from even our local county councillor. Just turned up one day, watch it come down, and it did. And it's completely flat now. Now, it was county property. The place was there. Probably this kind of money could have put it right. And people moved out. So it was ready for people to move in. And it's just these, I can't believe that they did that. And it purely was they want to sell it. So really, you county councils need to have a word up there, and not everything's about money. And it's not everything about people that's not homeless but need shelter accommodation. It's about joining everything together. The NHS, us, everyone has got to work for the other person. And they seem to be working against them. I'm glad to hear about this, Tim. Sorry, Chairman. But it's a shame we missed a fabulous opportunity in our area.
Which is now gone. Ivan.
I think he was just referring to the Health and Social Care Act, which joins everything up. I think it's really, at this moment in time, this is a really, really useful partnership to be in, because I was on a call yesterday with the deputy leader, Louise McKinley, where she was discussing things with opposition leaders. And she was talking about asking us what we believe would be the situations within our own communities. And I can see there, this again, we're heading for a perfect storm because of the cost of living crisis. We're going to get more and more elderly people who are going to be more open to flu symptoms, really serious illnesses. They're going to be going into hospital. The hospitals are going to get very, very busy, including probably still dealing with COVID. And we're going to need more and more of these facilities available for hospitals to be able to deal with that increase in workload, which is going in there and taking up those beds. So there's going to have to be situations like this. There is a reason behind this, and I think Ian was probably aware of it on the Health and Wellbeing Board. I raised it at Essex County Council the other day. Essex County Council are heading for an overspend of 6.5 million already on adult social care, and on the back of that, there was a hospital discharge pathway funding. It ceased in 21-22, which was there from the government to help them with reablement and getting people out of hospital into the right facilities and getting the right support they need. So us partnership and coming in with this, it can only be a good thing of helping Essex County Council, but also helping the NHS, which is going to be a high pressure time for them to do that. I have got a couple of questions. We are in partnership, and I've raised this before, and I've been around the houses on this before over my years as dealing with these discharge from hospitals. One of the issues is, and I should imagine this is one of the good things about it, they can go in here for 12 weeks while their house is being fitted with the adaptations. We used to call it a man with a van, which we introduced, where they'd go into hospital, the man in the van would see what they needed, the man with the van would go to their house and do those adaptations. So we've been here before, but one of the concerns we did raise before was that people, because of the pressure on the NHS, people were being released from hospital too soon, not with the right support. And I would hate for us to be involved in something that we're not keeping our eye on, where some of these people, and I've had a family actually over the last couple of weeks really concerned about one of their relatives being sent out of hospital at the wrong time and not with the right support. So I'd be keen to know if we do. I know we're just partners. I know Essex County Council are responsible for the care packages, but we're also a partner in that. So it'd be useful to know that we're keeping our eye on the ball, that people, when they are moving into these facilities, they have got that right connection. Because we were finding before that there was more people being readmitted to hospital because they come out too soon and they weren't getting the support they were getting. So I'd like us to keep a close eye on it, if we are a partner, that how many people are coming out of hospital and being readmitted, just in case things are not working out properly. That would be a real concern to me, and I'm sure families would there. And it'd be useful to know how many actually need more than the 12 weeks. Have we seen situations where they've not been able to actually be released from this accommodation to go back home with the right support? Because again, I know Essex County Council have got backlogs in their issuing their care packages, so that we could end up with people in there longer than 12 weeks if we're not getting the right support for independent living back at home when they come out. But overall, it's something that's going to be needed even more over the next few months. I can see things getting worse for hospitals and them needing every kind of tool in the bag to actually be able to help them get through these really serious times ahead of us. But yeah, welcome.
In Paul's absence, I'll go to Tim. Okay. Tim, would you like to pick up Ivan's comments there?
Yes, I can pick up on that. So I think the key thing of the project is that there's a strong multidisciplinary team set up around it. So we've got one of our officers, we've got officers from the county council and some other people involved. So actually, when someone is proposed to be coming into one of those flats, there's a discussion, a meeting around them. So what we won't be doing is taking people who are being discharged too early or have care needs that are too big for the scheme. And ultimately, we have the final say around whether that individual comes to us. So is it not working?
Microphone a bit closer, Tim. I switched off now. That's it.
There we are. Right, I can hear it now.
That's better.
Yeah, so what I was saying is that there's a multidisciplinary team set up around the project. So you've got an officer from Essex County Council, you've got someone from the health sort of side of things, and you've got one of our officers as well. So when a patient is proposed to us, there's a meeting, discuss their particular circumstances, and it's not until that team is happy, and particularly we're happy, that that person will then be allowed to come into the scheme. So we've got quite a lot of control over the whole process. And I think that the 12 weeks was designed around that. That is kind of a decent amount of time for someone to be assessed and for their permanent accommodation to be resolved. But if it can't be, then that person has to then move on to maybe a care home type facility. Or there've been a few people who've actually taken into our own housing stock. They've actually become our own tenants as a result of being in the scheme. So
I would, on the back of their reablement contract that they put in place to Essex County Council, there was a cost saving there to be made, and it was about fast tracking people more and trying to get them the right support. And I'm not saying that wouldn't work, but what I'm worried about is that because of the desperation of the situation, that people are not put in a position where they're not ready for that, for that move, and not getting the right care, and they end up, like I said, going back into hospital. I don't know if we know of any cases of that, because we were certainly seeing it before, people being readmitted to the hospital because they were being released because of the situation we were in, and released too early.
I must say, I do share your concerns, Ivan, because this has been a subject that's been discussed, as you well know, in various other places. Committee, the Overview Scrutiny Committee, I said, but People and Family, I've had several presentations on this, and it's been always a concern that now with the changes in arrangement, it's NHS responsibilities to discharge, to provide all the what a patient need until the time it actually leaves hospital, and only then Essex County Council comes in and becomes responsible for that. They're not even going to hospital now to understand what the needs of the person are, and this is a big ongoing concern for a lot of people, and I do share your concern. Tim, anything else you'd like to add to it?
No, I think the only thing is just to clarify that the care is a responsibility of Essex County Council, so we don't get involved in that, and there is that whole package around the whole proposal. So,
well, I think as negotiations are still ongoing between officers, is something that I'm sure that will be raised as a concern. Do I have any other speakers on that? I don't see anyone. Has been moved and seconded. I think we'll all those in favour. Well done. Thank you. Agenda item 12. It's the report from Partnership Portfolio Holder Linda on the draft Equality Inclusion Strategy. Before I go to Linda, we had an excellent all-members briefing the other evening from a lady who used to work for ACAS, which really gave a very, very good comprehensive description on what this whole thing is about and what we need to do to observe the legislation requirement that are upon us as a council. Linda.
Thank you, Chairman. I'll just go through things as briefly as I can possibly do. The Equality Act of 2010 introduced new duties on the public bodies, including local authorities, referred as the Public Sector Equality Duty, in other words, PSED. These consist of general and specific duties and replace former duties for race, gender and disability. We have 3 key roles in promoting equality and inclusion. First of all, as a community leader, we work with our partners to tackle inequality. Secondly, as a provider of services, to make sure our services are tailored to the needs of the individuals, making sure staff are aware and responsive to the needs of different sections of our community. And thirdly, as an employer, we welcome diversity in the workforce and have policies in place to make sure staff can balance their work and home commitments. Our objectives for 2023 to 2027 are based on our roles and responsibilities, the needs of the community, as well as being informed by the most up-to-date data about the district of tendering, including the 2021 census data. The council's values which underpin the corporate plan are: councillors and staff uphold personal integrity, honesty and respect for others. Innovative, flexible, professional staff committed to delivering excellence. Recognising the diversity and equality of individuals. Working collaboratively with partners, including supporting the Essex-wide vision and ambitions. Object 1, engage and communicate in appropriate and accessible ways. Object 2, ensure we deliver inclusive, responsive services. Objective 3, foster good relations with and within the community. Objective 4, break the cycle of inequality and improve life chances. And Objective 5, develop and support a diverse workforce. That's a bit. As mentioned in the report, the next stages, if the draft is approved, are October 2022, now, consultation process commences. November 2022, consultation period ends and revisions made to the strategy as appropriate. November and December, final version of strategy submitted to management team, ICAB and Cabinet for approval. January to March 2023, publication of strategy and rollout of training briefings as required. The recommendation is as written in the report. Thank you, members.
And you're moving that, Linda, yeah? Linda, you're moving that.
Yes, I am moving that. Sorry.
Jeff, you're seconding it. Any comments on that, members? No, thank you. I'll go to the vote. All those in favour, please show. Thank you very much indeed. That's lovely. We'll move on to item 13, A6. Again, it's one on Linda's report, community engagement strategy. Without stealing any of Linda's thunder in her presentation, just like to stress that the way that we engage with people, the very fact that Councillor Honeywood's not here, is busy engaging with the community in Jaywick. Just want to make that point. And also, the one thing that I'd like to again talk about is the tendering, Colchester Tendering Border project, where we have probably set up the biggest engagement program that the council's ever taken part of. And, you know, to go back over the years, how many village halls we filled with officers engaging, reiteration 26 of the local plan, which has finally been done. But there's several examples there of how we engage. So, Linda, over to you.
Thank you, Chairman. Okay. Just going back a little bit, a short while. At its meeting in February 2022, Cabinet adopted its 2022-23 highlight actions to deliver the Council's corporate priorities and included within C3, effective and positive governance was an action to review the way it engages with the community and to present a draft strategy for approval. Community engagement is about giving people the confidence, skills and power so they can get involved, shape and influence the planning, development and delivery of services. Engagement activities can take many different forms and the level of involvement can vary greatly from simply being informed to being empowered to achieve their own outcomes. The proposed community engagement strategy sets out our approach to engaging with communities and provides a set of principles that the council will uphold in relation to engaging with and listening to the community it builds. It builds on the good practices that already exist within the council and sets out a way forward for engaging with local people in the future. Its adoption will contribute to the corporate plan vision to put community leadership at the heart of everything we do through the delivery of high quality, affordable services and working positively with others. The council is required to undertake consultation when there is a statutory duty to do so through individual legislative frameworks, such as for the planning, licensing and housing. In addition, under the general duty set out in Section 3 of the Local Government Act 1999, which requires an authority to make arrangements to secure continuous improvement in the way in which it functions are exercised, having regard to the combination of economy, efficiency and effectiveness. The authority is under an obligation to consult certain groups of persons for the purpose of deciding how to fulfil this duty. Although there is no legal requirement to develop a community engagement strategy, it is considered best practice, and the proposed community engagement strategy sets out how the council will consult and engage with people in the future to ensure that residents and other stakeholders have the opportunity to shape the influence decision making. I pass it as with the recommendations.
You'd like to move that
recommendations as printed.
strategy is adopted,
Yeah.
and I'll be very happy to second that. Any comments on the community engagement strategy? No, I don't see any heads going. All those go to the vote. All those in favour? Yeah, that's unanimous again. Thank you very much indeed. I think we're coming up towards the end of the item 14, management team items. There are none on this occasion.
No, thank you, Chairman.
And there are no exempt business to conduct, to exclude the press and public. Members, I thank you very much indeed for your participation. It's been a very, very good discussion today, and I wish you all a very good weekend. But before you go,